Yep. One second. Right before we get to that, before we move on from the upward acceleration, there's a slight correction that needs to be made. Paul, Plane Reality, just informed me that Dell's position is not that it's doing the 9.8 meters per second. It's only staying at 9.8 meters per second. So it's at a constant rate to avoid that speed of light issue there. Like that cumulative
that's zero
acceleration.
acceleration. That's zero acceleration. That's me.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think it's the constant, and what is the 9.8 per second is the deceleration. So when you let go of something, it decelerates towards the ground because the ground is rising until it reaches terminal velocity, of course, because of the stuff in the atmosphere. Just to clarify. But I'm glad you wrote some things down because you did clarify a couple of things for me, which I'll bring up later.
Yeah, and thanks for clarifying that last piece because it is a claim that it's a constant, that it is not accelerating, and that things are decelerate. Yeah, you said that very well.
Yeah. So, dude, so that's literally kinematics, right? It's just inverting the positions. So, very, very cool. Anyway, I just wanted to add that in there, not to misrepresent his position, because he's not here.
Okay, as you would have just heard, last week on Flat Earth Friday, they were talking about downward acceleration and, terminal velocity. And they were talking about a particular topic which apparently someone by the name of Dell was talking about, and also the Flat Earth Society, about the rising Earth, accelerating at the 9.8 meters per second. Now, as you can see by this particular website here from Skydive's website, they'll say, if you're jumping out of an airplane that's traveling about 80 to 90 knots, roughly 100 mile per hour, within about 3 to 5 seconds after exiting the aircraft, you'll reach a terminal velocity of about 120 mile per hour. So there is some form of acceleration. Now, I went out there and just produced this small chart just to basically sum this sort of stuff up. So as you can see here, I've got terminal velocity. I got the amount of seconds that would be from the point of exit. 9.8 meters per second, then squared 19.6 and 29.4, as you can see. You can ignore the grey ones because that's just basically meters per minute, meters per hour, then kilometers per hour. So in the first second, after that 1 second, you've reached a speed of about 35 kilometers per hour, or in the American format of miles, it's basically 22 miles per hour. Now, as that previous article said, after 3 to 5 seconds, you'll reach a terminal velocity of 120 mile per hour. Now, when you look at this chart, 5 seconds, you're looking at about 109.6 mile per hour. It's not quite the 120 mile per hour, so I'm a little bit unknown as to what the meaning of all that was, but looking at the averages, it looks like just over 5 seconds, you would reach that 120 mile per hour terminal velocity speed. Now, one of the things that they said, which I completely agree with, is that if you did 9.8 meters per second acceleration of a surface moving upwards, that eventually you would reach the actual land would reach the speed of light. Now, I completely agree that them dunking on that was completely spot on, because that's just obviously completely impractical. Now, this Dell guy basically said that it's not 9.8 meters per squared. It's actually 9.8 meters consistently. Now, that would mean that when someone jumps out of an aeroplane, that they would reach their 9.8 meters per second, which is 35 kilometers per hour, and they would stay that 35 kilometers per hour all the way down to the ground. That's obviously not the case, because as that article just said, after 5 seconds you reach 120 mile per hour. So there's definite acceleration between second 1 to second 5, and to a point where obviously for the rest of your trip all the way down, you're at that 120 mile per hour, and that's the terminal velocity that you have because of the wind resistance and friction and so on and so forth. So a planet rising at a consistently increasing acceleration up to the speed of light is stupid. And, the Flat Earth Society is obviously completely wrong by doing that. Dell is saying that it's 9.8 meters per second continuous, where a skydiver does 25 kilometers per hour. That's completely ridiculous. So what is it then? I understand that gravity is very difficult to explain. We're talking about a very large mass, which is the Earth, and versus a very small mass, which is us. And so that 9.8 is consistent because the mass of the Earth is so huge in comparison to our mass that it greatly outweighs the formula on its side. So that's why something like a feather or a bowling ball or a bus can all accelerate at a consistent speed, because it's the Earth which is heavily weighted on that particular formula, and the smaller weight, which is a couple of grams or a couple of tons or something like that, is a much smaller figure on the mathematical sum. And so that's my basic breakdown on that. So yeah, 9.8 meters consecutive. I don't think so. A rising Earth to the speed of light, don't think so. There's definite acceleration. It's definite down. Just as to what the hell it is, anyone's guess. Thanks for listening.